Hey folks, Eddie from Totally Wired Guitars here, and today we are taking a look at this custom built Shell Pink Jazzmaster. So, full disclosure, this guitar was for sale for about a day or two before it was bought by a client. I'm already regretting it. I'm not gonna lie. This guitar is a joy to play. It features a classic vibe poplar shell pink body. Love, love, love shell pink. And this one has really, really nice contours, a flawless finish throughout. It is a medium weight. The overall weight of this guitar is about 8.1 pounds. So that's pretty average for a Jazzmaster. And the star of the show, as far as this guitar is concerned, is definitely this neck. Now, for those of you on Instagram who follow Lounging Guitars, he had a contest recently that Allparts sponsored that featured one of these necks. It was a custom build that he did. It had a silver, I think, American Pro body, and it featured one of these necks, and I just so happened to buy one around the same time. And typically, I'm really not a big fan of flame, but this one has this roasted maple triple A flame. They're not typically the necks that I go for, but the fact that this has this beautiful bound neck with perloid block inlays, a nice dark rosewood fretboard, vintage frets. Geez Louise, this thing feels amazing, and it's got a chunky profile. I think it is 0.88 on the first fret where I measured and 0.98 at the 12th. So that is definitely one of the chunkiest necks that I have played from Allparts, but they did a phenomenal job on this thing. Take a look at the flame on the back. If that's something that you're into, some people are going to be losing their shit over this because they love that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just beautiful. The fit and finish on the neck is fantastic. These did not come with a nut or tuners installed, but they did come with a nitro cellulose finish. Getting this type of neck built for you by someone like Musicraft, for example, would set you back, you know, depending on the specs that you pick, $800 to like $1,000+. And this neck is not cheap either. Right now on Allparts website, this is an $800 neck before shipping and taxes. You can find it from some retailers closer to the $700 mark. But yeah, no doubt this is the most expensive neck I've ever seen. Allparts sell, and one that I bought myself, but I was just so curious about this neck, and I am glad I took a chance on it because it is, seriously, I cannot recommend this neck enough. If you're looking for something premium, something unique, the roasted maple also makes the neck a bit lighter in weight as well as compared to just a normal riff sawn or quarter sawn or just normal hard rock maple neck. It is a little bit lighter, and you can definitely feel it once, you know, you get the package in and pull it out. You're going to be like, whoa, this neck feels super light. The fit and finish of it from the factory is pretty damn good. I didn't really have to do any fret work on this thing. The frets are level. I've got the action on this super low. I think I'm at 20 thousandths, maybe a little bit less than 20 thousandths of an inch at the 8th fret when I capo the first and hold down the last fret. That is 20 thousandths of an inch at the low E, and I think I'm at 10 thousandths of an inch on the high E. You can kind of, maybe, I'm not sure if you can tell just how low. And the neck is almost dead straight with no buzzing whatsoever anywhere on the neck. So, fuck my life, folks. I don't want to sell this guitar. But I got to fund more projects for the future. It's kind of how we keep things rolling around here. Now let's move on to the rest of the specs for this guitar. We've got our AVRI tremolo as well as our Johnny Marr / American Pro 7 1/4 radius bridge. It's got a 52 millimeter string spacing, so that keeps your strings far away from the edges of the fretboard. We have a WD aged and wide bevel celluloid tortoiseshell pickguard. Now, I don't know if this is definitely not celluloid in the same way that Spitfire or Avant-Garde or Lava Guard pickguards are, but it does look very nice, and it's definitely a cut above the typical tort that you can buy from Fender or Amazon or whatever. I like the wide bevel. It's a nice little vintage style, vintage accurate detail. Now, these witch hat knobs I also got from Allparts as well. They are the push-on style knobs, so there's no set screw on these bad boys. Now, moving on to the pickups, we've got the Sunday hand-wound Woody's Jazzmaster pickups in this, and they are fantastic, just fantastic. They are Alnico 2 pickups. They are wound around the 8K range, and if you haven't heard of Sunday hand wound already, Tim has been making pickups for a number of years now. Super nice guy, and yeah, they just got this vintage flavor to them. He calls them woodies, and I can understand they've got like a vintage woody type of tone to them. The Alnico 2 magnets keep it sounding a bit warmer, not as bright as your Alnico 5 pickups, which I welcome. I personally love having a little bit darker pickups. Some of my favorite pickups of all time have been both from Peter Leonard, the pickup wizard, who used Alnico 2s in his pre-CBS pickup set, as well as Seymour Duncan's Antiquity 2 pickups. So yeah, they just hit that tonal ballpark that I really love, and they're relatively inexpensive. Sunday hand-wound pickups are actually a bit cheaper than the pure vintage 65s because they raise the price on those, and now those are like $150. I believe Sunday hand-wound pickups are $135 a set before taxes and shipping. So definitely check him out because this guitar sounds amazing. the rest of the guts on this are all hand-wired AVRI spec. It's all CTS pots in your lead, CTS mini pots in the rhythm circuit, Switchcraft switches, an input jack, 22 gauge Gavit cloth covered wiring. I've got a new old stock paper and oil capacitor in the lead circuit and an orange drop capacitor in the rhythm. And both the body and the pickguard are fully shielded. So this thing is about as quiet as you are going to get it to be, given that they are running true single coil Jazzmaster pickups. One final detail that you might have noticed here is that this guitar is missing a string tree, and that's because this features the Goto staggered 6-in-line vintage style tuners. And they're awesome, actually. This is the second guitar that I've built that has had these tuners. It's nice to not have to install a string tree. It's still optional for you if you want to do it, but because these tuners are staggered, and you can see that it goes from taller and then gradually gets shorter and shorter in pairs, it increases the break angle to the highest treble strings, completely omitting the need to install a string tree. And yeah, it's really, really smooth. You've removed one more friction point when using your tremolo. I think they're a bit expensive for tuners. They're in the, $75 to $80 range, and these ones are aged. I think maybe the non-aged ones are a little bit cheaper than these, but overall, fantastic tuners to complete out the build. One final detail I did want to give is I did create and shape a bone nut for this. I don't know if you're going to be able to appreciate the detail, but I decided to actually have it set within the binding, right? That's a little bit more difficult of a task to do. A lot of folks who get these kinds of pre-bound necks will just cut the binding near the nut to be able to just put a full-size, 1 5/8 inch or 1.65 inch nut down in there. But I ground that down right on the edges very carefully after taking my measurements, and sanded it also down thickness wise to get it to perfectly sit inside of that curved slot that came on this neck. It's a nice little detail. That's the way that they did them back in the day. Actually, on the vintage Fenders, actually the binding would come up even over over the nut. And also they had binding nibs on the vintage Fenders, which this, unfortunately, that would have been a nice detail, but you're gonna have to shell out for like the Fender custom shop to get those these days. And of course, we've got the amber switch tip. Some people absolutely hate the amber switch tip. I don't always do it, but I had a couple in the parts bin, so I just said, you know what? I think this is time. I think this is the kind of build that we put an amber switch tip on. Now, you might have seen this from the beginning of the video and thought, what the heck kind of strings is Eddie rocking on this Jazzmaster? And yeah, those are the Gabriel Tenorio Artist Series. You can see that they are silk wrapped, even though these are nickel wound, handmade strings. The silk wrap actually helps to tame some of the behind the bridge stuff that some folks don't like. You know, some folks love that stuff and they really like lean into it and embrace it. And some folks absolutely hate it. And I like these strings not because I hate the behind the bridge stuff, but I find that they give almost like a rounder tone, not so metallic sounding. It like softens up some of that, and I like that. They are not flat wound strings. Gabriel doesn't make flat wound strings, but they are just phenomenal strings, and it negates the need to have to solder the ball ends on my treble strings, both his artist series as well as his normal trem twist strings. Negate that need because they are just reinforced and super sturdy construction, paying particular attention to how the ball end is joined and wound into the rest of the string, because these strings are specifically made for the Jazzmaster. Anyway, I think that about does it for this guitar. I think the big selling point here really was the neck. I forget even that this is a classic 5 body, because the only thing that I'm really paying attention to is the feel of this neck and like the sound coming from these excellent pickups and the feel of the trem. Everything just feels premium through and through. And I am super stoked on this build. And I hope they start making these in non-flame. If they just could, you know, Allparts, if you're listening, if you could just please make this exact neck with just tinted, like amber tinted, normal maple, but do it in a nitro finish with the same exact specs as this, and I'm going to be your number one. I will be an all-star buyer because I would be building with these necks like all the time based on how good this one is. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and it's been helpful and inspires you to go out and upgrade and mod and build your own offset guitars. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us to grow. And don't forget to follow Totally Wired Guitars for more offset guitars modding tips.